Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Feeling Smarter. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Tim Miller. G'day, Tim. How are you?
Yeah, going pretty well, Aaron. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. Well, this week we're going to continue on our journey with the payment of superannuation death benefits because we do have our upcoming SMSF masterclass on the 18th of June. And today, Tim, we're going to dive a little bit into the forms of nomination that we can put in play and why that is so important. And my first question to you, therefore, is we understand the different types of nominations, so I don't think we need to sort of delve into that. But a lot of that decision-making process comes around because of the differences in flexibility or control that a member may want to have when it comes to the payment of their superannuation death benefits.
Yeah, and largely, I think, Aaron, that a lot of it comes from that control element linked to their personal circumstances. So
Yep.
a lot of it's going to be driven by, I hate to use this phrase, but plain vanilla type SMSF fund, where potentially less control is needed. Then nominations or whatever can be effectively at trustee discretion in often in many instances. But where you've got blended families or very unique relationships existing within families, that's when you need to start to build these sort of cascading sort of arrangements, whether they incorporate the nomination part or the pension part or whatever else it might be.
Yeah, so taking that, I guess, a step further, because quite often when we look at obviously being the provision of documents when we're setting up funds and other things, and nominations can kind of get these templates in essence that follow the deed. And I preface that our Hill and Zuter decision from the High Court affirms the fact that we follow the deed in respect to that. But making sure that people know what they're preparing and therefore how it links to their broader estate planning becomes quite crucial, because just filling out a binding death benefit nomination may end up resulting in a situation whereby the trustee is bound by a decision that doesn't necessarily tie up with some of the outcomes that they wanted in the first place.
Yeah, that's right, and I think the same can be said. So when we look at binding nominations, the same can be said when contemplating reversionary pensions.
Yep.
And of course, then the old never the twain shall meet with the reversionary pensions versus binding death benefit nominations. And the simple thing, if I want to start a pension, but not really going through it too significantly, you may end up with a reversionary pension that is totally counterintuitive to a binding nomination that you'd previously made. And then when you're not here to deal with it, there's going to be a few angry family members around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where, again, it comes back to ensuring that we've got the different tiers of that nomination structured as well. So
Yep.
in a lot of instances, we might just see, well, if it's John Citizen, he wants it to go to Jane, but does it actually deal with the cascading nature of what may happen? Because we may want to have a specific set of instructions for one to pass to the other. But if that first individual dies, well, if we don't have that second instruction, therefore, we can come into a position where ultimately the trustees who are remaining or who have come in would then have a level of discretion in how they would need to deal with the benefits, which kind of flies in the face of what that individual was maybe wanting to do in the first instance.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I mean, it's got to be fair to say that no process is perfect, and we've even seen late last year a few instances with the ATO where people had made fairly implicit instructions to leave benefits to a spouse in the event that the spouse survive past 30 days, and then the spouse has done that, and then the spouse has subsequently died, and the benefit has had to be paid to effectively the estate of the spouse for distribution, and then you start asking questions about the taxation side of things there. So even the best intentions can come undone when you're dealing with death benefits, and so the more you can put in place to get your objectives, the better.
Yeah. And I guess the final thing here in this topic is, and I touched on it at the very beginning, around the fact that the Hill and Zuda decision is such a defining decision, but it really just reaffirmed a lot of things that we'd seen in various state jurisdictions in any event. But ultimately, we have a process now that if we are going to put in place death benefit nominations, then the form in which that must take must be specifically correlating to the instructions of the deed. So not only do we need to contemplate the importance of how and who we're paying benefits to and how we want that to be binding or discretionary, we must specifically follow what the deed says. So that's just not the way in which it's constructed, but ultimately the procedural aspects that must also follow with it.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, I mean, the whole deed piece is critical from the binding nomination piece, but it's similar. You know, I still liken it to the investment strategy and identify that you should be reviewing your nominations at least annually anyhow, and you should be reviewing your processes to make sure that, you know, your deed still satisfies your requirements and that you are still satisfying the deed requirements for these sorts of nominations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is just one area, obviously, that we're going to be having some discussions about in our upcoming Death Benefits Masterclass. We've also been looking at this issue in the context of the Division 296 tax stuff, where one of our partnered lawyers at Hill Legal, Chris Hill, and Tim and myself are having some ongoing discussions about the impact of these proposed measures and what we might be doing in the context of these nominations. I guess, Tim, we've spoken about, you know, the standard DBNs and the BDBNs, but you know, the ability to incorporate death benefit rules or, you know, SMSF wills and those things are all part and parcel of this topic that we'll be exploring in more detail in the upcoming SMSF Death Benefits Masterclass. So if you want to find out more and to register, you can go to our website, smartersmsf.com/events. You can find out more there. Thanks for your time again, Tim.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone, and we look forward to you joining us for next week's edition of Feeling Smarter. Have a great rest of the week. Bye for now.
See you all. Bye-bye.